flat track people have been in it for years are very familiar with Dee and Larry Johnson. Larry was an amateur racer, raced scrambles, discovered flat track, started late 60s.
Yeah, he ruined me.
When Larry got hooked on flat track, the essential part of flat track racing is the leathers you see hanging up there, and not rolling in money. Dee decided to make the first set of leathers she did for Larry.
Well, Larry couldn't afford to buy a set, so I talked my wife into making them for me.
But Dee did such a good job, like out of the gate, that they were noticed by a lot of people. You guys were racing up Auto City, and always very outgoing. Dee Johnson is one of the most luminous people I know. She lights up her room wherever she goes. She is fantastic to spend time with, and she made friends, and Larry, with Bart Markle, Neil Keane, some real legends of the sport, and they encouraged her to start making the leathers for other people.
When they saw what I did.
Saw what you did. Yeah, you have to get that pretty close. But if you could talk a little bit about, because I know that the Picos were a big part of you getting the instructions and getting the machinery to making the leathers.
Well, Wanda Pico, when Bart and Neil Keane saw my work, they said, "Oh, you got to go out to California and meet the Wanda Pico." And at that time, she was making leathers and had quit. And there was Bates, I think, I don't know if there was any other company.
ABC.
Maybe Vanson.
ABC.
ABC, yeah. And anyhow, I went out there and met her, and she was impressed with what I did, and she gave me everything, the sewing machine and everything I ever worked on for 50 years, she gave me.
They shipped it all back to Michigan. Is that where you guys were at the time, in Michigan?
No, in Toledo, Ohio.
Toledo, Ohio. And so, flat track fans will notice or know this name. I think the third set of leathers you ever made were for Corky Keener.
Yeah, and we had a race team then, and went to Houston, and I gave Dick O'Brien the bill, and he said, "Where's the rest of it?" And I said, "That's it." So I was fortunate enough to do for 50 years. There was only 2 Harley guys I never worked for.
Yeah. So Dee would have made leathers for, of course, their future son-in-law Randy Goss, Jay Springsteen, Scott Parker.
Yeah, I made all of Scott's suits.
Scott I know, is a huge fan. But some other guys, Ronnie Jones, Doug Chandler.
Yeah.
But what I was amazed, because I did a little research before we got here, when Dee and Larry were really kicking with the leather business, 100 sets a year.
Yeah.
And so the total of that over 50 years, if you can put your hands around it, I think Dee estimated that she made how many sets?
Between 4,000 and 5,000.
4,000 and 5,000 sets.
And I did it by myself.
Of the racing leathers.
I did all of the sewing by myself.
Yeah, she's getting it. And that's the thing. Dee's leathers just had the best reputation. One, for appearance, but two, the guys said they always fit. And I think I remember reading that if you met somebody, you could pretty well tell right off. And if they look like they like to drink a little beer, they like to eat a lot, she made some allowances for future expansion.
Those were the questions I did. Like 3/4 of my work was done over the phone, so I would ask them questions about how tall they were and how much they weighed, and if they drank beer. And if they drank beer, no matter what waist size they gave me, I always added 2 inches. I did. And they always seemed to fit.
So to see some examples of Dee's work, I mean, just look down through here. I think Darren Erickson had to be one of your best customers. There's four sets of Dee's leathers hanging down there.
I tried to order a set today.
And didn't you tell me your last set was for Rob Williams out of Michigan?
Buckley. Yeah.
So over the years, you made lots of great friends. You guys helped racing in more ways than just the leathers. I know you helped raise money for the big junior race in Syracuse.
You really did that?
Yeah, you gave me the paperwork. But what are some of your favorite memories? I know there's a lot, but favorite memories that you and Larry have for the people you met and just the good times.
I mean, Jay Ridgway lived with us for 5 seasons. And you talk about fun. And some of the stories I can't tell.
Yeah, and Jay's the iconic Jay Ridgway Underdog leathers are down there by the sign-up table. Jay was a lot like Dee as far as his personality, just a super bright light. And he came up with the idea while he was riding Bill Kennedy, and we have Billy Kennedy Jr. here today. Riding for the Kennedys, they were racing Triumphs against the Harley Davidsons. And so I think that it's well known that they were already the underdogs, but Jay just kind of capitalized on that. How did that idea, was that Jay's idea for the underdog leathers, or?
I don't remember. I'm certain it was.
But
maybe that could have been over a bottle of wine. I don't know.
But besides the underdog leathers, just like the cartoon characters, Dee also made a cape. And so when Jay would win a race, Jay would put the cape on for his victory lap. And
Well, my kids would run down to the
Turn 4. Turn 4.
Turn
Turn 4. They'd run down to turn 4 and have the cape ready, and he'd stop and put it on. Then he'd make his victory lap.
I saw, and Steve Moorhead's here today, which is great. Seeing Jay Ridgway on the Kennedy Triumph beat all the fast Ohio Harley Davidsons. Moorhead, Scott Drake's here. Scott was there. Jimmy Ziegler that we talked about. Jay came from behind at Zanesville on Labor Day 1976 on that Triumph and beat all those guys. And me seeing him as a 12-year-old do that, and then with that cape, it cemented, Mike Seabach and I were talking about, it cemented our love of the sport, and it's never changed.
And what racetrack was that?
Zanesville.
Zanesville,
76.
Okay. We're good.
Wow. So Randy had some success at local events and pro events,
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah.
just didn't do super well at the Nationals.
Not at Nationals. He was intimidated. Intimidated
That's a big stage, yeah.
on the big stage. And I was telling somebody else here earlier today that Dick O'Brien always had the stopwatch on Randy Raker. Every racetrack we went to, he'd always time him because he'd tell me, Larry, he's second or third fastest guy in the racetrack. But he would get the start finish line and look down and see all them national numbers.
That was it.
And then he thought, well, I can't beat them guys, and so that's where he'd race.
Well, it's a tough game to be at
Oh,
the top.
Oh, yeah.
And we you know, watching the films last night, kind of reviewing that, and the best of dirt track, and how big a deal it was to make a national, and to win a national, and then somebody like
Compared to today, today you got a handful of guys. That's all. But back then, there was every guy at the racetrack was a potential winner. You couldn't count out anybody.
Well, you look at somebody like Steve Moorhead with 23 wins. I mean,
Right.
what a career! I mean, one of the greatest out of a high.
Right.
So, but the first guy to win a national was your future son-in-law, Randy Goss, married to Vicky. But I wrote down a little bit. 1979, you guys won Randy's first Grand National win.
Right, in New York,
Middletown, New
And
York.
Middletown.
the funny thing about that was I took a big sheet, a bed sheet, and I wrote, "Congratulations, it's a national," and I put a floodlight, and I had it, because they were living with us.
Right.
And I had it on my picture window, and everybody in the neighborhood thought we had a baby.
We kind of did. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. But with Randy and Larry, with that XR that they bought, they won in Middleton in June, August in Des Moines, Iowa, national in Iowa. And a really big deal for Randy, a really big deal for Larry and Dee. It was that they went the West Coast swing and won at the legendary Ascot Half Mile, which is a huge deal.
Yeah.
And pretty amazing. Randy would go on to be the all-time Grand National winner at Ascot Park.
Well, in that year, it had never been done before, as we started every national that we went to. And it was 5 more years before finally the factory, they did the same thing, where you won a complete season that entered every race. Qualified for every race.
Every national. Larry was a super hard worker. Randy Goss is probably the hardest working Grand National champion that's ever been. He worked every picture, almost every other picture you saw Randy Goss in this time period. Randy's with a stack of tires and gears and got a quick change wrench and a hammer in his hand.
And like his first national was New York. He was back in Toledo the middle of that night, and because we pulled the engine out of the frame every friggin' week. Every week we tore the engine apart and looked at it, everything in it, and just inspected it, put it back together. But that's how we started every national that year. First time it had ever been done for the AMA.
Well, the XRs were sensitive, and you had to stay on top of them.
Right. Yeah.
So, but Randy moved on to the Harley factory and became.
Well, he moved on to the Harley factory, and the next thing I know, Steve Moore had lost his job with the Harley factory, and guess who come banging on my door?
Yeah. So Steve won Harrington, Delaware.
Harrington,
Delaware for you guys. Yeah. But the bike wasn't done, so I don't know if anybody rode it in that time period, but I know that at Lima in '89, Will Davis,
yeah, he rode our bike.
He rode the bike and won. So there's a great website that has a list of tuners and their wins, and Larry's credited with 4 Grand National wins, but I didn't put together about Lima until Larry was talking about last night. So Larry has 5 Grand National wins.
The last national Randy won that.
Yeah, and the last national that Randy won was at Ascot Park, and that was on my bike.
Wow, yeah.
So that's another one.
So, Larry you don't hear about like you should, but Larry's has got more national wins than Steve Storrs, who was a Harley factory tuner, more than the legendary Edgar Fergie out of Ohio. 4. He's got credited 4 wins. Yeah. So, but I wanted to get these guys up here. I don't want to keep them all day, but there's not a better couple. 67 years of marriage, but these guys have been together and in this sport. But anytime you get to meet and talk to Dee Johnson and Larry Johnson, it's a great day. And they have been great for the sport, and we could sure use more like them.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for coming up.
Thank you.